In May of 2022, at the Chapter and Affiliate Summit in San Antonio, we held an appeal with our chapter and affiliate partners to help the Nebraska Bighorn program and support the amazing work done there by biologist Todd Nordine and his staff. With $50,000 of seed money from WSF and that $50,000 matched by Iowa FNAS and chapters and affiliates support totaling more than $160,000, WSF was also supported by our good friends at Grizzly Outdoors Corps and their agency, Archer Malmo. Brent Trader of Grizzly Outdoor Corps, Laura Hedges of Archer Malmo, and their team are here with us tonight and this weekend. They thus far have provided the Wild Sheep Foundation nearly $300,000 in grants, with 100% of that directed to put and keep wild sheep on the mountain. I'd like to play a short video of this Nebraska project.
Here in the Nebraska Panhandle, wild sheep roam the Badlands. It's not a big herd, but a very valuable one. It's estimated that about 250 sheep roam the area.
Sheep were extinct here by the early 1900s, and it wasn't until 1981 that we were able to bring sheep in from other states, repopulate, reintroduce, establish some populations here.
Wild sheep are just beginning to thrive in Nebraska again, but today they face an existential threat, and it's not hungry mountain lions.
This particular pathogen called Mycoplasma ovidamonae seems to be one of the leading pathogens, impacting populations across the West, and unfortunately we've had to deal with it here too.
MOV is a respiratory pathogen. So respiratory droplets exchanged from animal to animal leads to pneumonia, getting fluid in its lungs, nasty cough. If it's a youngster and it's a pretty acute infection, it can lead to mortality.
So with support from Wild Sheep Foundation and Grizzly Outdoor Corps, the Nebraska Big Game Disease and Research Center invited veterinarians and researchers from 7 different agencies to help test the herd for the disease. But first, you need to go get the sheep. It takes a team effort, along with new testing methods like dogs and portable testing units.
The need for new testing methods is to certainly try to help us respond much quicker, and make better management decisions. Most of the time, we've had to wait for, diagnostic labs to, get these samples shipped somewhere and then get the results, get them returned. And in the process of doing that, you're already moving sheep around the landscape, so these new techniques are certainly going to help us, make those decisions quicker.
Conservation is a collaborative effort. We appreciate each and every one of our partners, whether they're the crews doing the work on the ground, our funding partners like the Grizzly Outdoor Corps. These things wouldn't happen without that. It's that simple.
It was a weird day to be a sheep in Nebraska, but in all, 36 rams and ewes were scooped up, tested, and prodded. But when all the testing was done and the radio collars snapped on, the sheep were allowed to rejoin the herd.
Once again, thank you, Grizzly Outdoor Corps, for your dedication to wild sheep. We look forward to a long and prosperous relationship. And thank you to Nebraska Game and Parks, and I know Todd and Logan are here tonight. Thank you for all you do for Nebraska Bighorns. My introduction to wild sheep and conservation began in 1995 when I was fortunate to draw a bighorn tag in my home state of Washington near Hell's Canyon. Just a few months after my successful hunt, an all-aged die-off decimated the populations in all 3 states in the Hell's Canyon area, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. At that time, the state wildlife agencies, the U.S. Forest Service, BLM, Nez Perce Tribe, Umatilla Tribe, Washington State University, Bureau of Land Management, all of those agencies, as well as our 3, at that time, state FNAWS chapters and the national FNAWS, began what's called the Hell's Canyon Initiative. For nearly 30 years, these groups have collaborated in the name of wild sheep. Now I'm going to go off script a little bit. The folks I'm going to bring up here have spent, most of them have spent the most productive years of their life to benefit wild sheep. So I think we owe them a little extra stage presence, and as you know, biologists, maybe a little stage embarrassment. Representing Idaho Fish and Game, I'd like to bring forward Holly Miyazaki and Francis Kassir. Representing Idaho Wild Sheep Foundation, Mike Schlegel. Representing Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, Don Whitaker. Representing Oregon Wild Sheep Foundation, Kevin Martin. Representing the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, Paul Wick. And representing the Washington Wild Sheep Foundation, Garrett Grant. Team, put your hands together. Let's roll beyond the borders. You want to watch?
Hell's Canyon along the Snake River is home to robust herds of bighorn sheep. Idaho, Oregon, and Washington share this steep, rugged country that has been the experimental laboratory for studying the deadly MOV disease in bighorn sheep. In this tri-state area, state and federal wildlife agencies, the Wild Sheep Foundation, state chapters, and tribal agencies have worked together to develop the test and remove strategy to control MOV.
The populations that we're working with today are just few of the several populations that we monitor as ODF&W as part of a tri-state initiative that involves Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as Idaho Department of Fish and Game. It's truly a tri-state partnership. It's also a partnership with the Confederated Umatilla Tribes, as well as our Wild Sheep Foundation chapters and affiliates. And we do a lot of great work together and are very, very proud and thankful for our partnerships.
By testing these bighorn sheep, individuals that carried and spread MOV were identified and then removed from the herds. By eliminating a small number of these carriers, the Hell's Canyon herds are now free of MOV and growing in numbers. Now it's time to experiment with different test and remove strategies on 7 individual bighorn herds across the 3 states. Some native, some reintroduced, some healthy, and some MOV infected. The Tri-States decided to go big through a Wild Sheep Foundation GIA grant and funding from state chapters to greatly increase the surveys, testing, and collaring in these herds. The goal is to clear MOV from large landscapes where it's more difficult to capture and test all bighorn sheep.
We are sharing data, we're sharing information, we're progressing a lot faster than if anybody was just doing this by ourselves. So test and remove is a pretty new concept, in the world of wildlife management for bighorn sheep. But by working together and pooling resources, the projects can be bigger, we can answer more questions more quickly because we're sharing information. We meet often, and the collaboration is really what's going to move things forward at a faster pace, a more productive pace, and really more effective overall.
The tribes have been involved with these sheep captures for a number of years, working with our co-managers to manage these populations. The bighorn sheep populations are critical to the tribe's culture and, of course, to the cultures of the non-tribal folks around here, those who hunt them and those who just enjoy seeing them. I would expect this to be just an ongoing relationship between the tribes and their co-managers, working to manage the disease issues in these populations and many other management issues affecting the populations.
I think it's important for all of us to kind of get out of our little silos, and for many, outdoors and wildlife does that. But I think it's important in general to understand and the need for why this type of habitat and these type of animals are worth investing in and learning about and making sure we protect them.
As neighboring states sharing animals that cross these boundaries, they don't recognize that imaginary black line. It's really exciting to work with our neighbors because we're all trying to meet the same objectives for this metapopulation.
The herds in north central Washington are unique because they reside next to major metropolitan areas. And so we have a lot of residential and agricultural use right next to these herds. And so the ability for domestic sheep to plop down and set up shop in proximity to our bighorn sheep herds is very high. And so we have a high ability for transmission of MOVI from those domestic sheep to our wild populations. In central Washington, we actually have 5 populations that are now infected with MOVI, and back when I started in 2004, that was 0. So it's something that's of a major concern for us.
Our objective or our goal is to study disease in wild sheep and to contribute that knowledge to disease management and hopefully conservation.
I think all the effort that Washington State and Oregon and Idaho have put forth, as well as the Wild Sheep Foundation, is important because it basically is trying to preserve an iconic species to the shrub steppe landscape that once absent is really difficult to replace and diminishes people's experiences when they're out there on that landscape.
It's really a testament to the power of collaboration. This isn't a cheap endeavor. So we've got the callers, we've got the helicopters, we've got all the personnel, we've got jet boats, we've got a fixed wing plane that is the spotter for the helicopter. This is really how we get things done. Everybody has a role. The chapters have a role, Nationals has a role, the agencies have a role, the public has a role, the volunteers have a role, and we all have the same goal so that we can have more sheep on the mountain and everybody can enjoy these beautiful animals.
So there are lots of ways to contribute, and it doesn't always have to involve your pocketbook. Supporting these projects however you can, I think, makes a big difference.
Being an outdoorsman and a hunter, this experience should be something everyone should try to do if you can.
So many people that are out here are hunters, and I kind of dislike the term of consumptive users. Hunters do so much to give back. Hunters do so much to care about the land and the habitat and the animals, and that is just so clear today.
As far as being in the process of handling and working up the sheep, it's pretty exciting to be able to handle those big rams and then to watch them take off and go back up the hill, and you'll be able to see them later and say, hey, I helped put those collars on. So that's pretty cool.
Anybody that really wants to help conservation-wise research, they need help. They need volunteers. They couldn't do it without us, I don't think. I mean, there's just too much going on.
Success is simple. More bighorn sheep on more mountains.
As Gray mentioned in his opening remarks last night, his 3 words of transformation, innovation, and legacy will guide us at WSF up to our 50th anniversary in 3 years. Transformation, innovation, and legacy is exactly what the Hells Canyon Initiative Committee has been practicing for nearly 30 years. You have worked together relentlessly to transform wild sheep management and disease response. Your innovations in the field have resulted in increased lamb survival, herd growth, and in the end, greater hunting opportunities in all 3 states. The legacy you will leave will impact wild sheep management for decades to come. Never in any of our lifetimes has there been anyone in this room, we can find the oldest person in this room, and never in your lifetime has there been more bighorn sheep in Hells Canyon than right now. It is my honor to recognize the Hells Canyon Initiative Committee for their relentless work on behalf of wild sheep. Tonight, I bestow upon them the Chair's Award. This is a special award that's only been given 7 times in the last 15 years. This is one that means a lot to me. This is my backyard. And I've been fortunate to have seen some of the biggest rams ever in the state of Idaho grow up before my eyes, and the state record taken a few years ago by Doug Sayer. And on the Washington side, the same thing, and a state record taken by Gary Guerreri, and some amazing rams in Oregon as well. And I've been unfortunate to have in my hands, as with these up here, a 1-month-old lamb that died because of pneumonia, because of exposure to MOV. And I want to thank all of you for all of your hard work and dedication and everything that you've done for wild sheep. And I'd like to bring, I think Francis is going to be the group spokesman to come up and say a few words. So ladies and gentlemen, the Hells Canyon Initiative Committee representatives here tonight.
On behalf of all of us up here tonight, as well as people who have come before us on the Hells Canyon Initiative that are still helping us and working with us, and our partners at BLM, the Forest Service, the Nez Perce Nation, and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla, we're honored to receive this award. And we thank all the other organizations that have helped us and our supporters and friends, including the College of Veterinary Medicine at Washington State University and the Wild Sheep Foundation, who stuck with us through the tough times and been instrumental to our successes. Thank you so much.